Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and happy Wednesday. I am so happy you could be here to spend some time with me today. Now we are going to be creating this super fast and easy and very fun and festive tabbed folio today, and I am so happy to be using up papers from my stash along with a printable from my very own shop. This has loads of room inside to add your pictures and journaling, and there is lots of fun additional details as well. So if you're interested in creating a folio just like this one, then stick with me and we'll make it together. For today's project, I'm using the St. Patrick's Day Gnome Cupcakes tags, and these are a printable from my shop. And what I think is so great about these types of printables is that it really allows me to revisit a collection that I have previously used and have already gone through the focal images that I like. And this just helps to extend the life of that collection. I can just use the pattern papers and then top it off with these images. And so this is printed with the original size. I didn't scale it or anything. This is just how it comes. Now, typically I would cut out my images with a border of white around, and that would help it to look a little bit more like ephemera. And I would also add the stickles. That just helps to bring out some of those details. But for today's project, I elected to cut right along the tag shape. And that is simply because I don't have a white base for my project, and I thought that would be a little bit too much contrast. I did finish it with that stickle detail and added an eyelet here with a little bit of twine, and this time I did add a layer of 110-pound cardstock, and that helps it to be more sturdy so that I can use this dimensional foam tape and pop that up and get a nice dimensional layer. So this is the tag we're going to use on our finished project today, and I really think that this is going to help me work through a lot of my stash, and you know I do like to scrap my stash. So that's all for the printable. Now let's get to working on the base. As I mentioned, for this folio we're going to jump right to the colorful cardstock, and I just have two pieces that create the base, and then we're going to be adding layers onto it. I did use my envelope punch board, my scoreboard, and my guillotine cutter to create these, and I just wanted to show you how these look where they are with the colorful cardstock. So I have two of these, and this is 65-pound weight, but don't worry, it will be plenty sturdy when we get all of our layers added. And then there is an additional element here which will become our full size page flips, and so this will be added to the inside as well. For these, it is measuring 6 inches high by 8 inches wide and scored at 4. You will need 4 of these to complete the folio as shown. And you want to demonstrate how to create those base pieces, and I'm just going to switch to this white cardstock. It's a little bit easier to see, and so we're going to start with a measurement of 6 high by 8 and 5/8 inch wide, and this will work for this particular envelope punch board. I don't know, some people have a different version and their measurements come out a little bit differently, but I can show you how it works on mine. And so the first thing I want to do is add the tab to the top, and so I'll just come along here and line that up with the edge of that cutting blade and make my first punch. Then I'm going to mark the 2 3/4 line here with the straight edge and slide this over so that I can get a tab that is 2 3/4 inch wide. Go ahead and add the second punch. Now you see you've got your tab shape. I'm going to bring this to my guillotine cutter now and trying to get that portion in frame. So what I want to do is flip this over so that I can line up the straight edge along the top, and then this indentation will be just at the very edge. So I find it easier to push my finger down here, make sure that you have your blade guards on, and push your paper all the way up to that so that you know you have the proper positioning for when that blade goes down. It won't cut into further down than you want it. And then I'll just simply take off that excess there. And you see how that lined up perfectly. So now we have our tabbed edge. And bringing in my scoreboard now, I'm going to flip it so that I'm scoring on the side that doesn't have the tab cut in, and I'll just line that up with the top and the side. My first score is at 4 inches and follow that groove all the way down. And then the second one is at 4 1/4. So this is going to leave you with pages that are 4 by 6. And so that will make it easier to cut the pattern paper for the top. And remember that we're going to be using that colorful cardstock. So this will be the actual base, and we don't need an additional cardstock border to finish that off. So I've just folded that over and making sure that it is very straight and lined up so that all of my layers will fall into place. For the top one, I want the tab to be on the top, so I can just fold it from this direction, you see, and now I have my tab on the top. For the bottom one, you want to fold it in the other direction so that you'll have your tab on the bottom. And I have picked the size of tab specifically to allow for a ribbon trim to be added and not catch on these tabs. So let's switch now to our green cardstock. So I have my 4 full-size page flips here, and I've already added my adhesive, and then I have 2 of the tab top portions. Now it's time to bring all this together and create the base. This is a very good time to consider using your 2 glue combo, and I'll just go ahead and pull the backing off of this tape so that I can bring these pieces together. Put your line of Tombow not too close to the edge so it doesn't splooge out. And then I'm bringing these 2 pieces together by folding on the score line and bringing those 2 edges together. The hardest part about this is keeping your hands out of the glue. That double-sided adhesive tape will hold that well until the glue sets up. And now you can see we have 2 tabs here along the side and 2 inside portions. Here's where we're going to add our full-size page flips, continuing to add those 2 glue layers. And then I want to adhere these with these pages folding outward. So I'll line this up with the corner of the page along that score line and the bottom to make sure that I get it on nice and straight. And yeah, it will open this way. I'll just repeat that process for this side. Now we have greatly increased the amount of space there is to finish this folio. So I'll just go ahead and repeat that exact same process and finish this second set of pages. So we've got our base all set to finish, and I really think this is pretty versatile. You can change out the color and the collection that you use for just about any theme or holiday, and so I think that you're gonna revisit this one again and again. I think there are other variations that we can add to it as well, different options, and so we may come back to this one very soon, but I just wanted to share with you how this works. Now we've got 2 pages inside, and each of them open to have 2 full-size tip pages included. And so this is going to be our base. So I want to have the pattern paper on these 2 pages matching, just because I think that helps to coordinate. We're going to have to break that rule here shortly though, because I have a collection that I have previously used, and I did not have as much of the paper to fill all the insides with the same pattern. So we're going to have to think outside the box on that a little bit. But for all of these pages, The measurement for the pattern paper is going to be 5 7/8 inch high by 3 7/8 inch wide, and that helps it to be easier to cut, so you can go through and cut all your pieces at once. Now, because I am going to go back and forth between my 12 by 12 and 6 by 6 paper pad, that helped me to make the decision of how tall it would be. And I did have some offcuts from the 6 by 6 paper, but I think I can utilize those in an upcoming video. So stick around for that and I'll share with you how I wind up using those offcuts. But for now, I think I'm happy enough with the two outside pages matching, and it just helps to flip these around so that you have the longest side closest to you to get that lined up. Now, here's where we're going to break my rule. I don't have enough to cover all of these pages, so I am going to utilize two different patterns. I'm going to put them in the same place though, and I have a geometric for the outside, and then I have more of an all over, I don't want to say floral because those are actually hearts, but it's an all over pattern, and it's a little bit less geometric. So I'll add that to this portion, and then I'll repeat that same process. So for each of these sets of pages, I'm picking a geometric and an all over pattern. I think that helps it to look less busy, and this really does allow me to utilize those 6 by 6 paper pads. So here is the last one, and this is a great place to add all of your pictures on the inside, or if you have flat keepsakes or mementos, you can include those here as well. So to further embellish these top pages, I want to include a photo mat, so I went right back to that pattern on the inside so that it would coordinate very well, and I just bordered that with our green card stack and an additional layer. For my book, I had a scalloped rectangle. You don't need that, but I would recommend that white layer just to keep the patterns from looking too busy. So if you like the triple layered look, I think that would help to showcase a special photo. And I'm just going to include that pretty much right in the middle of the page. I also want to bring this pattern over to this side as well. So I've cut an additional piece for this side just as a layering pattern. And to help balance that, I'm putting these down with the regular old double-sided adhesive, and that will work perfectly. So in order to balance our photo mat, let's put something on this side as well. I have a small die cut doily, just cut from a nice crisp white cardstock. This is going to help break up those patterns again. And then I also have an additional one of those tags cut for the inside. Now I want to utilize mine as a tuck spot. So when I cut this out, I'm going to remove the border, and I'm going to put my adhesive only on one side in the bottom. I'm going to reinforce that with a little bit of my Tombow, because if you're putting things in and out, it will be more of a stressor on that adhesive. So let's put that here, and I won't put anything behind it yet until that glue sets up, but you would be able to tuck something under there if you wanted to include it but not have it adhere to the book. So to finish off these two pages, I want to have a little bit of a floral detail, and so I just cut some coordinated cardstock with the Spellbinders Be Bold etched die blooms for the flower, and then I did layer that with a little bit of a glittery gold center. And then the leaves here are from the Spellbinders Cinch and Go Poinsettias. That's just the flower, and I cut the petals apart to create the leaves. And so I want to put one here and one here as well, just to create some balance. And I do think it's a good idea to include those with a little hot glue. For this side, I'm going to concentrate my glue toward the outside in case you need to tuck something underneath of it to get a better layered look when you finish it. These flowers are just an added detail that you don't need, but I think it just adds a little bit of extra character to this. And because these are flat flowers, they're layered, it's not going to add a tremendous amount of bulk. So I think this really helps to finish off the inside of our pages and gives it a little bit more detail. And so that is really sweet. I'm going to go ahead and finish this side using those exact same steps and the exact same measurements. So I'll just go ahead and leave that camera on and then put a little music for you to enjoy. And I'll be back when I have all this assembled. Okay, so that's our second set of pages complete with all those same beautiful layering and detail. And you will notice that I have also finished the back with the coordinating pattern paper so that it will have a finished look all the way around. Now you can see where my tabs come together. I do want to include some beautiful ribbon trim as a closure. So I have just added a small piece of my double-sided tape to tack on my trim. This is a beautiful, delicate stitched satin in an apple green. This comes from Really Reasonable Ribbon, and this ties a really lovely bow. So I just found my middle there, and I'll stretch this across to tack that on temporarily. And you can see now when we tie our bow, that will fall between those tabs. So that will work perfectly. Let's go ahead and finish the cover now. It's easier to work on the front of this folio if we open that up, and I'll have a flat surface to press my paper down onto. Here is my front cover. You will notice that it matches the back. I just think that gives it a more coordinated look, and if you have the paper, you could consider doing that. And I do want to add a layering pattern as well, and I just used the offcut as I was working along, and I'll flip that over and add it. So I already know that it is measured exactly as wide as I would like it to be, and so that just gives me a little bit of extra detail. Now I'm going to continue using that small white doily. This one is a Recollections doily, and I picked that up from Amazon. I'm not sure if it's still available, but any 4-inch doily will work perfectly for this size of book. And here is that tag that I showed you previously. I have already added my glitter and my twine and the dimensional layers, so I can just include this right on top. Now I want to bring in my flower arrangement. These are a collection of pre-made flowers, and I picked these all up from Really Reasonable Ribbon. Beautiful chrysanthemums in a really fresh bright green color. I paired that with the magnolia, and as I do, I switched out the stamen for gold because, you know, you can only have a pot of gold for this lucky holiday. I cut a couple of small shamrock shapes here with some glittery green paper and paired it with netting, twine, and some die cut foliage. This is just going right along the bottom here. I just realized that I had intended to place this closer to the top, so I didn't peel that off, and I'm just re-adhering that. The torn paper is not a concern because my flowers will cover that. Now you can see more of that cute tag, so let's go ahead and add that layer now. And I do like to add a couple of extra finishing details, so I've just got some little shamrock charms here, and I'll add those with string. Put the string into a bit of hot glue and then remove the excess. I do want to mention as I'm working along that the ribbon I chose for these flowers is the chevron striped twill, and that is also from Really Reasonable Ribbon. It's a lovely pattern and it matches perfectly with my project. Makes a really nice loop, but the bow is a little bit bulky, so I decided to change it out for the satin for the closure, just so that it would tie a little bit easier. I'm topping that string with a button, and then I'll bring in a couple of sequins here as well. I like to include these on the different layers, so I'm putting one on the doily here. I'm just using my Tombow, and I'll press that into the wet glue, and then the other two I can adhere right to the top of that tag. And I do want to come in and cut my ribbon at an angle so that it doesn't fray, and that is all for our book. So if you enjoyed this project, make sure to leave me a comment and a big thumbs up. If you're interested in this printable, I'll link it at the top of the description so it's easy to find. You will also see links to all our handles there, as well as the products I used from Really Reasonable Ribbon. And if you're not already, I would love for you to join my crafty little family by hitting that subscribe button and the bell notification so you'll be alerted every time we add new content. As always, I'm wishing you a happy and productive day, and I thank you so much for watching. Bye.